The plane's cabin was filled with the usual hum of engines and murmurs of passengers settling into their seats. A young, elegantly dressed white woman, Mrs. Harrow, stood in the aisle, her face twisted in disdain, her finger pointed accusingly at an elderly black man sitting by the window. "I will not sit next to this man," she declared, her voice dripping with contempt. The cabin temperature seemed to drop as passengers turned to watch the confrontation unfold. The elderly man, Marcus, had boarded the flight with little fanfare. He was a retired professor of African American history, traveling to attend a symposium where he was to be honored for his contributions to the field. Marcus had faced prejudice many times in his life. But he remained composed. His only crime today was being seated next to Mrs. Harrow, who had decided he didn't belong in first class. As Mrs. Harrow continued her tirade, the flight attendants rushed to defuse the situation. "Please, let's all take our seats and discuss this calmly," one of them implored. But Mrs. Harrow's resolve was unyielding. "He's probably too poor to afford this seat. He might steal something from me," she hissed. Her baseless accusations shocked those around her. Marcus, maintaining his calm demeanor, reached for his phone and began to stream the encounter live. He knew that in this digital age, the truth could spread quickly and shine a light on injustice. "Ma'am, I'm just here to travel, same as you," he said softly, his voice a soothing contrast to her sharpness. "I don't believe you," she snapped. "People like you don't belong here," Marcus sighed, shaking his head slightly. "And what kind of people are those, ma'am? You know exactly what I mean," she retorted, her voice rising. "This is first class, not the back of the bus." The flight attendants exchanged nervous glances, unsure of how to handle the escalating situation. One of them, a young woman named Sarah, stepped forward. "Ma'am, please, let's try to resolve this peacefully. We can find you another seat if you're uncomfortable." "I shouldn't have to move," Mrs. Harrow insisted. "He should be the one to go." Marcus looked at Sarah, his eyes calm and resolute. "I'm not moving. I have every right to be here," Sarah nodded, appreciating Marcus's stance. "Of course, sir. Please, everyone, let's try to remain calm." As Marcus streamed the incident, he thought about his late wife, Clara, and how she had always encouraged him to stand up against discrimination with dignity and grace. He remembered their many travels together and how they had always faced the world hand in hand, united against prejudice. The cabin grew tense as Mrs. Harrow's accusations escalated. "He's stolen my watch," she suddenly exclaimed, her voice filled with false indignation. "I demand the police be called." Her words echoed through the cabin, a stark reminder of the deep fissures in societal progress. Passengers exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of where to cast their gaze. A man sitting a few rows back stood up. "I saw everything," he called out. "This gentleman hasn't moved from his seat. He didn't steal anything." Mrs. Harrow glared at him. "Mind your own business." "It is my business when someone is falsely accused," the man replied firmly. "You should be ashamed of yourself." As the situation spiraled, Marcus's live stream continued to capture every moment. The comments section began to fill with messages of support and outrage. "We stand with you, Marcus," read one comment. "This is unacceptable," said another. The digital world rallied behind him, their collective voice growing louder with each passing second. When the plane landed, police officers boarded, responding to Mrs. Harrow's false accusations. She stood triumphantly, believing her lies would be validated. "Finally, arrest this man. He's a thief and a liar," she cried out. However, the officers, informed by Marcus's live stream, approached her instead. "Ma'am, we need to talk to you about your accusations," one officer stated firmly. The cabin fell silent as the weight of the moment settled over everyone. Marcus felt a mix of relief and sadness. He hadn't wanted this confrontation, but he knew it was necessary to stand against such blatant prejudice. His thoughts turned to the many students he had mentored over the years, hoping this incident would serve as a lesson in courage and integrity. As Mrs. Harrow's facade crumbled, the truth laid bare by Marcus's phone, the passengers watched in stunned silence. The officers escorted her off the plane, her triumphant mask replaced by a look of defeat. Marcus, though shaken, remained composed, his quiet strength a beacon of resilience. A fellow passenger leaned over and whispered, "Thank you for standing up to her. You handled it with such grace." Marcus nodded, his eyes reflecting a mix of exhaustion and determination. "It's not easy, but it's necessary." The video of the incident went viral, sparking a wave of support for Marcus and condemnation for Mrs. Harrow's actions. News outlets picked up the story, and it quickly became a symbol of the ongoing struggle against racial prejudice. Marcus's calm and dignified response was praised, and he was invited to speak about his experience on various platforms, further amplifying the message of tolerance and respect. In the aftermath, Marcus received numerous messages from people inspired by his strength and composure. He was contacted by the organizers of the symposium, who expressed their admiration and support. Marcus's story not only highlighted the pervasive issue of racial discrimination but also served as a reminder of the power of truth and the importance of standing up for what is right. As he prepared for his speech at the symposium, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that his actions had sparked a meaningful conversation. He dedicated his speech to his late wife, Clara, whose unwavering support had always been his guiding light. On the day of the symposium, Marcus stood at the podium, looking out at the audience. He took a deep breath and began his speech, knowing that his words, like his actions, could make a difference. As he spoke, he felt Clara's presence beside him, a comforting reminder that he was never alone in this fight. The incident on that plane was a stark reminder of the work that still needs to be done. Marcus began, his voice steady and clear. But it also showed that change is possible. Through the power of social media, the voices of those who stand against injustice can be amplified, and the truth, no matter how hard to face, can shine through the darkness. The audience listened intently, moved by Marcus's words and his unwavering commitment to justice. As he concluded his speech, the room erupted in applause, a standing ovation that underscored the impact of his message. Marcus stepped down from the podium, his heart full of gratitude and resolve. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but he was ready to continue the fight for equality and respect. With Clara's memory as a guiding light and the support of countless others, he felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. The symposium became a turning point, not just for Marcus but for all who attended. His story served as a powerful reminder that every act of courage, no matter how small, could contribute to a larger movement for change. And as Marcus left the stage, he carried with him the knowledge that his journey was far from over, but that he was not alone in his quest for a more just and compassionate world. In the months that followed, the airline implemented new policies to prevent discrimination and improve customer relations. They introduced mandatory training on diversity and inclusion for all employees, using Marcus's story as a case study. Marcus himself was invited to speak at these training sessions, sharing his experience and the lessons he had learned. Marcus continued to receive invitations to speak at conferences, universities, and community events. His message of resilience and the importance of standing up against injustice resonated with many. He worked tirelessly to advocate for systemic changes, using his newfound platform to promote tolerance and respect. Monique, the young flight attendant who had tried to defuse the situation, reached out to Marcus. She expressed her admiration for his strength and asked how she could help in his efforts. Marcus welcomed her involvement, and together they began working on initiatives to raise awareness about racial prejudice and promote diversity. Their partnership grew, and they developed a close friendship. Monique's perspective as a flight attendant provided valuable insights, and she became an important ally in Marcus's mission. They traveled to schools and community centers, speaking to students and adults alike about the importance of empathy and understanding. The viral video of the incident continued to circulate, sparking conversations and debates about racial prejudice. Many people were inspired by Marcus's calm and dignified response, and they began to examine their own attitudes and behaviors. The incident had a ripple effect, encouraging others to stand up against injustice and support those who face discrimination. Marcus's story reached far beyond his own community. It became a symbol of hope and a call to action for people around the world. He received letters and messages from individuals who had been moved by his courage and were inspired to make a difference in their own lives. As the years passed, Marcus remained committed to his cause. He continued to mentor students, advocate for social justice, and work with organizations to promote equality. His efforts were recognized with numerous awards and honors, but he remained humble, always attributing his success to the support of his late wife, Clara, and the countless individuals who had stood by him. One evening, as Marcus prepared for yet another speaking engagement, he received a message from a young woman named Emily. She had seen the viral video of the plane incident and wanted to thank him. Emily shared her own experiences with prejudice and how Marcus's story had given her the courage to confront discrimination in her school. Marcus read her message with a sense of fulfillment. He replied, offering words of encouragement and support. He knew that his journey had come full circle, and that his actions had inspired a new generation to continue the fight for justice and equality. The plane incident had been a turning point, not just for Marcus, but for everyone who had witnessed it. It was a reminder of the persistence of prejudice and the importance of standing up against it with dignity and grace. Marcus's calm and dignified response had sparked a movement, showing that even in the face of adversity, the power of truth and integrity could prevail. As Marcus took the stage that evening, he looked out at the audience, filled with people eager to hear his message. He felt a deep sense of gratitude and purpose, knowing that his words could make a difference. He began his speech, confident that together, they could create a more just and compassionate world. Marcus's journey was far from over, but he knew he was not alone. With the support of countless others, he continued to fight for equality and respect, inspired by the memory of his late wife and the unwavering belief that change was possible. His story had become a beacon of hope, a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit, and a powerful reminder that every act of courage, no matter how small, could contribute to a larger movement for change.